Hey, my name is Kyle Rush, and you are watching the No Counts Given podcast.
Dance Team Union is a proud sponsor of the No Counts Given podcast. And before you even think about skipping this ad, listen, you need to hear what Dance Team Union is doing new this year. It is called the rankings. No matter where you compete, who you compete against, what events you go to, you get to submit your routines November, December, January, and February to see where you rank against teams from across the country. Okay, for school teams, you could compete in jazz, hip hop, pom, team performance, kick, and military. And for those all-star teams, pom, jazz, hip-hop, kick, contemporary, lyrical, and variety, you already know what it is. There is no limit to the number of routines a team can submit. Now, if you are a school team and you are looking to go to the 2027 Dance Team Union Nationals, you need to submit your videos because you could receive a bid to go to the 2027 National Championships. Or listen, you're going this next year, 2026, we got you. Dance Team Union is going to give you a spot straight to finals, all-star teams, listen, an at-large bid to the All-Star World Championships. And for the most exciting part of it all, I'm going to be covering it all on my podcast, No Counts Given. Go to www.danceteamunion.com to learn more information. Welcome back to another episode of the No Counts Given podcast, the premier podcast for dance and dance team. I'm your host, Kyle Rush. We got to talk about today's episode. I might be a little biased, but I'm the podcast host, so I could be a little biased, but this has to be one of my most favorite interviews I've recorded yet. I'm a pom lover. I love pom. I talk about this all the time. I love pom, but not just the pom category. I love learning about the pom history, the evolution of pom, where it's began, where it's going, and hearing people's perspective on pom. And going into this competition season, I did it last week with my hip hop judges. I'm doing it this week with pom judges. I just wanted to sit down with judges and talk about the division. What have we been liking that we've been seeing grow in the pom industry or the pom category? What are we not liking so much? What are things we need to outgrow? What are things we need to grow into? Just like all categories and all dance styles, I am a believer in evolution. I think categories need to evolve and grow and become more competitive as time goes. But I think that there's been a point in the past few seasons where a lot of teams have just been forgetting about the tradition of pom. And we talk about it in like hip hop, specifically hip hop, keeping to the traditions and the styles and the elements of hip hop. And I believe that with pom as well too. So I wanted to get 3 judges on, okay? And 3 judges that I am so happy I was able to get onto the podcast. Judged at DTU, judged at UDA, USASF Dance Worlds, ICU, World Championships. You name the competition, they've judged it before, okay? Before we continue, like this video, comment, subscribe. You know all the things. Rate us on Spotify, all the things. I don't even know why I have to say it every week. Do it. There's so many people that are watching that aren't even subscribed to us, and I don't understand why. Can someone help me understand why? I don't understand why. Subscribe, like the video, share it, and let's get into the interview. Here we go. Pom Judges panel. Let's go.
Yes, it's like Shannon only know NON for some weird reason. So I've been dancing all my life, much like everybody here. I started out in Walnut Creek, California at 5 years old. Then my parents moved me to Nebraska, Omaha, Nebraska. So I danced through high school, through college. Then I started coaching in choreography for Millard West dance team. I have a couple UDA national titles under my belt, just a few. And then a handful of number 2s, second places. So been around a long time. About 21 years I coached and choreographed, retired 3 years ago. Now I just do a lot of choreography I'm no longer an enemy. I'm a frenemy now. So I get to work with a lot of teams here in Omaha. We had close to 26 teams go from Nebraska last year, and I helped over half of them. So it's kind of fun to get to be able to do that. That's me in a nutshell.
I feel like Nebraska's like the pocket of dance team.
Yeah.
It is insane. Like
we have nothing else to do.
Yeah. Like great quality teams come out of Nebraska. So I'm happy to have you. All right, let's pass it over to Ramona, and I'll unmute you.
Ramona Kitching. I think there's a pretty good chance I'm the elder statesman here. My roots actually go back to the 1970s when I started in the dance world, actually in the drill and guard world. That's how my love of the sport started, transitioned into Pom. By college was dance minoring and on the Pom team, and then coached. And then when the kids came, it's just a lot harder to coach. So started actively judging. So in the past 25 years, I've been judging across most circuits, most recently a little bit heavier DTU, but most certainly, varsity all-star and the all-star world. I have sat on the NDCA Coaches Association judges training panel and, worked very heavily in that to help bring judges and level up their skill sets. And now most recently, I work actually in the college recruiting world, helping dancers get set up and navigate the college recruiting process for dance teams. So in a nutshell, that's kind of where I've been involved in dance. Now this year will be 50 years. So I've seen a lot of evolution and I love Pom like you, Kyle. It's where, it's where my passion lies. Pom and game day. Those are my things. Not that I don't love the others. I do. But there's a little special place in my heart for that.
I agree. Yeah, and congratulations on 50 years. I hope to be there one day. still doing the same thing, talking about dance team and Pom.
Exactly. Still, but I'm sure my family is like, well, my mom's like, do you still do that cheer thing? Good Lord. Ma, I've never.
I get it. Well, thank you, Ramona. I'm excited to have you. I met Ramona, this was, almost a whole month ago at Sharpen Up. And we were talking. And then after like 5-10 minutes of talking about Pom, I was like, I have to get her on this podcast episode. I have to. So thank you, Ramona. I'm excited to have you here. All right. Let's pass it to Ricardo and I will unmute you. Go ahead, Ricardo.
Okay, so my name is Ricardo and I'm from Mexico and I've been dancing since 23 years ago, I think so. So I did mostly All-Star and I danced at the dance worlds for 3 years. I was the first team in Mexico to ever win a gold medal at the dance worlds. And the year after that, I started judging internationally. Mostly I've been judging for ICU and the dance worlds over the past 10 years. I've been doing the dance worlds and ICU for seven times during those 10 years. And I've been judging worldwide. And that's it. Right now I'm coaching a collegiate team here in Mexico. And right now we are national champions at the college championship here.
Nice. Thank you for your background. This is just personal, but I have always had this deep love for Mexico Pom. I love the style that Mexico has just like adapted as culture and brings to every competition. I love it. Anyway, so I want to start with just I guess like a harder question, I would say. As a Pom judge, let's go with Shan. I'll start with you, Shan. As a Pom judge, what would you say are some just hard non-negotiables for you in general? Like when you're scoring, it's like, okay, this is what I'm really looking for. This is my non-negotiable in Pom.
Yeah, so for me, it is all about that motion work. I feel that as we have progressed in Pom, it's been very jazz led. And although I love a good turn sequence, for me personally, one and done. And I feel that, I don't know if it's choreographers or coaches, but they need to have this fulfillment of lots of turns. Maybe they have run out of ideas. So they just load it up with technique, or, when people set down palms and they do a leg hold turn or some sort of trick or acro skill, that disrupts the flow of the ease of the eye for Pom, and it's not necessary. So I'm very traditional. I go back to Stephanie Manuel of the St. Thomas More days. Since, Kyle, I heard you say you've been around UDA a long time. nobody did it better than her. I consider her Pom royalty, and they barely did any technique. So I do feel that technical elements are great to show off your athleticism and all that good stuff. But for me, it's all about those visuals, that precision, that crisp that I'm looking for, completing that movement, holding on to it for a second. I love a good music mix. It's just all encompassing rather than let's just fill it with jazzy, technical elements. And I also, this is not popular, but I also do not love themey. I don't love gimmicky. I just want some really good music. I hate the same beat behind every single song. And I understand with a lot of themes with Pom, it's just, let's just throw some songs in there that have the, underlying word that we're doing as a theme. And then it's the same monotonous, mundane beat. I prefer more of how Carson Rowe did it last year with Ohio State. Super fun song. You could recognize the song, the beats, the tempo changes, all that good stuff. So yeah, I'm really traditional in the sense when it comes to.
Yeah, you said something in there, and I'm so happy you did. This morning, I was having this thought, and I've been having conversations with some college coaches, and one thing that I heard, and I can't remember where it came from. I'm pretty sure it's on an episode. Someone said to be a really great palm dancer, you have to have that jazz technique, right? Like knowing your body angles, knowing your body lines, knowing etc. But then I was thinking about it this morning, and I thought, is that a little bit of a misconception of what POM really stands for? Because I feel like I can say you could be a really good, in that same sense, you could be a really good POM dancer if you have hip hop technique and a ballet class.
Yeah.
And it almost feels like it translates the same and it takes away from what POM really is. So just a side thought. You said, go
No,
ahead, go ahead.
And no, that's great because I look at Pom a lot like I look at ballet for studio training. I feel like it is the base of everything you need. I noticed with my team when we dropped Pom and went to jazz, but we still did hip hop, my kiddos weren't as strong in hip hop. We had lost some of that we picked up from Pom. So I feel like Pom is a basis to lend itself to jazz or to hip hop rather than jazz, So I feel that way about that.
No, and we're trust me, we're gonna get into it in this episode. So
Cool.
let's go back to the non-negotiables.
Yeah.
Let's pass it on over to you, Ricardo. Let me give you your what's your non-negotiable?
I think, as Shan said, my non-negotiables is the visual impact of the routine. Like, yeah, give me some good pictures. I'm like, yeah, I'm here for the pictures. And I mean, not just for the pictures with the palm on your hands, but I think the pictures also when doing the staging, when doing the transitions, like you have to use the whole performance area to give us pictures during the whole 2 minutes. And also, I think people is forgetting about using their lower body. That's going like your feet, walk with energy. Like there are some people, so I think some teams or I can see like they are giving all these pictures or creating all these motions, but they are forgetting about like what they are doing with their lower body. And that also that give us some really interesting visuals over there.
Yeah, I agree. And I'm glad you brought up facials. Do we believe in like the surprise? Growing up, this is what everyone used to call it. And I guess that might be a California thing. I might be wrong. The surprise birthday face. Is that like a thing that you guys hear of? No? Every time you land something, it's mouth wide open, eyes, it's like, surprise. So that's been like the palm facial. Or growing up, everyone would say to say the AEIOUs in your mouth. So I guess that could lead me to a question because I didn't write anything about facials for my notes. Do we need for Pom? What facials are we looking for? Is it going to be like what's authentic to the music that's in the background, or is there something in Pom that like we need this in Pom?
I think you should go with the music. The music will dictate what you're supposed to be feeling and what you're supposed to be giving to the audience. And sometimes it will feel like so off. Like the music is saying something and you have like choreographed like the birthday face that you say like, and it's like genuine, So I think it's according to the music and also what the choreography intends to transmit to the audience. Say that.
Yeah, I agree. Yeah, I'm guilty of the surprise birthday face lover. I love a good surprise birthday face after a solid turn combo and you all land in that low V project up with your mouth wide open. It just makes me happy. So I will say I'm guilty of that. But I do agree, just in dance in general, you need to dance authentically to the music that's playing in the background. So let's pass it over to Ramona.
It's interesting. I agree with both Ricardo and Shan, but I have a different rationale. In terms of what kind of gets me to there. So in the same way, if it's a jazz dance with palm in the hands, I'm already, it's if it'll look the same essentially, or if it looks, you could even make the translation a hip hop dance, with palms in the hands. It's not going to, hit for much. Long sets of phrases with no palm work. And so we see this a lot with the teams that all of a sudden put in a kick line, right? And all of a sudden they're joined, they're a waist connection, and they're doing, 3, 4, 8 counts of kick lines. And you know what? Truth be told, it's usually not good kick. I'm like, you're not a kick team. You know what I mean? So not only are they not doing palm work, now their jazz technique and their technical skills are getting hit as well. So they're taking a little bit of a double whammy. I mean, I know there was a time in our evolution, and there still may be some state organizations that a kick line is a required component, but I think we've evolved past it, and it's a little kitschy, when we talk about, Shan talking about the themey things, all of a sudden, the kids go into kick line and the fans are like, "Wah!" And I'm like, "No, it's not a big moment." And then lastly, just connecting skills. But when I talk about my different rationale, it's really because of the drill roots, not because of my dance roots. Because I see it as an equipment category, and utilize the equipment. Utilize the palms in groups, forms, levels, layers, and make it purposeful. It shouldn't look accidental. If you do it, I mean, I don't prefer 2 colors versus 1 color. It's whatever they bring. But if you do bring 2 colors, utilize the differentials in a unique and purposeful way, and utilize the palm during the transitional movement as well. Don't all of a sudden just shake, go to the next place, shake.
Yes,
I saw Ricardo and I are like doing it together.
Oh, no.
There's times when it makes sense. You know what I mean? There are times when it absolutely makes sense to do
Yeah.
that for a couple counts to get to your next thing.
I have a funny story. So in California, Pop Warner specifically, and a lot of California teams that are Pop Warner, they do Pom. So Pom. So the kick line is this thing that has been like the California staple. Pop Warner, you have to have a kick line. Um, I did a choreography job last summer because one of my dancers who was going to do it for a Pop Warner team couldn't make it. She was sick. So I was like, I'll do it for you. And I remember walking into the choreography job and I asked the coach, like, what are some non negotiables for you? She said, we cannot win nationals without a kick line. And I straight palm to face. I was like, oh no, we're still in this era of palm. What's going on? So I'm going to pass it back to Ramona for a second. And Shan, please feel free, because I know you both said that you judge across these different circuits, specifically talking like a circuit of Dance Team Union versus UDA. Why is it that a team might place high at one, say DTU, but then when goes to UDA might fall like in the middle of the pack?
Because because the question almost elicits a little implicit bias that, a team at DTU would do lower at one. I really think it could do vice versa. But
Yeah.
in the bottom line, the issue is the score sheet used. If the judges are utilizing their different score sheets, so it's going to be a different outcome. I teach a class to choreographers to get them to understand this. I actually use the same routines, and I have them judge UDA, I have them judge with a DTU, and I have them judge with the state organization that they usually compete in. And all of a sudden, the light bulb moments start going all over the place. You have it, the score sheet is a tool. And me as a judge, it's not for me to force what I like or my biases onto that tool. That's the tool I'm given. And I would actually argue that the teams that podium at UDA versus DTU, let's just say, or versus, World's All-Star, they would podium across all 3. I think both. I think all of the above. I think the cream of the crop clearly rises to the top and the judges get it right. Where we see, or in my opinion, where we see a bunch of inconsistencies is in the middle, and where maybe a team that like I this is where I think it's it's kind of one of the myths, like, oh, DTU rewards artistry and UDA rewards athleticism. Well, if you look at the top, podium teams of DTU, holy cow, these are athletic Palmer
Oh, yeah.
teams. And then you look at UDA, and I mean, when you were talking about the Ohio State routine, they absolutely had creativity in there. I mean, they had the visuals, they had that balance. So those teams that get to the top have hit that sweet spot in visuals and athleticism and being able to do marry both very effectively. Where I think teams like where they're like, oh, I was fifth place at UDA, and then or at a UDA contest, and then I went and I got a very different place at a different. It's because of the tool being different,
Yeah.
and that's the long and the short of it, in my opinion.
But I want to ask you something because I feel like it was kind of mentioned earlier as well too. It's the themes, and there's this misconception that you have to have a theme to win at a dance team union competition, and it's not true at all. There's nothing in the rule book or score sheet that says you're gonna get 10 extra points if your theme is "Color Me Red" or whatever the case might be. So Shan, let me ask you, is there, you said you don't prefer themes. Is there a way that a team, let's just say it's tradition of theirs, like use a theme creatively that's going to pull my attention to it? Or is it just turning into this, we're seeing the same Uno and space and all these same themes over and over again, where it's hard to say it's original when we've seen it 10 other times?
Yeah. And again, I know it's unpopular with some people. I get it in the all-star world. This is what we've always done. It's traditional. But I have just seen it where I go in and I am consulting a team and they're like, "Okay, we're sitting down and deciding what our theme is going to be this year," with no thought or regard to how are we going to push our routine with our elements or being unique. It's just our theme needs to be unique. If they're thinking nothing about the choreography, just what theme are we going to go with? And they may think it's like you had alluded to, Kyle, they may think that it is a bang up job. Nobody's heard of it. This is going to be so awesome. But what they don't realize is we've already possibly judged 15 to 20 routines by the time, or sorry, competitions by the time we get to a regional. And we've seen it already 4 or 5 times. So it is not unique and original. I find that with a lot of songs too. But I feel that you can still do a theme per se, such as Minnesota. Both Minnesota and Ohio did this year, but they were understated. Like, oh, Minnesota's was obviously extremely themey with the costuming, but it was something that was extraordinary and again pushed boundaries, where Ohio's was very understated. Like, if you really listen to their songs and catch their theme, it's really rather creative. And obviously with the whole nunchucks at the end and all this great stuff, but it wasn't like you said UNO or spaceship or Barbies or whatever. I just wish that we could move on from this. I feel like Pom needs to progress, much like hip hop is progressing, and jazz is kind of a free for all. And Pom is just kind of stuck in this themey land. And I really want to move on from.
Originality and creativity is just one, this is the thing that I don't think these coaches necessarily understand. That's one subcaption. It's not going to
Mm.
bring you across the finish line. You know what I mean? So if somebody obviously if they gave thought to the theme, and I see it reflected in the soundtrack, I see it reflected in the movement quality. Where we're talking about Palm, have they explored every type of visual that enhances that theme? Then absolutely, I'm going to reward that. But again, that's not going to get them across the finish line without paying attention to the other subcaptions. So that assumption, I'm going to DT. I mean, this myth, just because
Hmm.
DTU celebrates the artistry, which speaks to my soul, but then becomes like this like myth now, like, oh well, that's what you need, and it's no, it ain't.
Yeah, yeah,
So-
no kidding. I'm interested to hear your thoughts on this, Ricardo, because I come from an all-star background. I love all-star dance, and I'm not going to shy away from the fact of saying that All-Star Dance Pom seems like it'll never let go of themes. And I'm interested in your thoughts because actually, in my own personal opinion, Mexico teams don't really use a lot of themes, it seems like. They're very representative of their country and the voiceovers, and I love that. And Mexico teams do very well at these all-star competitions. So are some of us just a little bit behind the curve and haven't just been like, okay, hello, they're doing it, they're winning. Why are we hanging on to these themes that have been used for the past 50 years? So I'm interested to hear your thoughts, Ricardo.
I think, well, one time I remember we were discussing this at the dance worlds, like with all these crazy teams having like, oh, our theme this year is going to be popcorn or cinema or Vegas or that kind of things. We were saying like, what will happen if we take out all these extra elements like the costuming or this music, like just put them in a black leotard and white pom poms? Will the visual impact will be the same or not? Because that's really interesting because they're putting so much effort on what's behind. Like we're gonna have this costuming, and then we're gonna reveal the movies or the popcorns or the rainbows, and now we're gonna change our color pom poms and do this trick to keep moving with our theme and everything like as a whole package. But what will really happen if we only go like black and white? Will the visual impact will be the same? And that was really interesting question to think about it because sometimes we are rewarding or people in the judges table are getting crazy about the themes and like don't seeing all the other extra captions, as Ramona was saying. Like the theme is just a creativity side, and maybe the overall and the communication and that's it, and the audience appeal. But we have other age sub captions that need to be feel and addressed during your routine. So yeah, well, and the Mexican teams, they only go and do the stuff. I think, well, the Mexico teams are really, they differentiate a little bit because their groove or their like Latin flavor they have on what they are doing with their movement. I think that's it. That's what makes them different.
Yeah, no kidding. But that's what I mean though by like it becomes like that style, right? So like if that were to even happen, like guarantee you, and I'm sure we all could probably agree here, if it were to happen, you put teams out there in black leotards and white palms, we're gonna tell the USA routines between the Japanese routines, between the Mexico routines, like we're gonna be able to tell. Now, I'm not going to shy away from the fact that not every country has gotten to that point yet in Pom, as it seems like there has become this obvious push for originality in Pom. But a lot of these other countries, and I'm saying countries, but it's a lot of these other teams as well, too. They think taking little bits from these viral pieces and winning routines and putting them together is going to give you that winning routine when in reality it takes away from that originality. So I want to go into that originality a bit. I've come to the point sometimes where I look at a lot of winning routines and I'm like, they're all kind of looking the same in a sense, not exactly the same, but I mean like formulated the same. Has Pom or is Pom starting to be trapped in this box of a formula? Or do you think there is like chances for teams to be rewarded on creativity, even though it might look a little different?
Absolutely. And I think that's for me, this sense of formulaic approach, and just, making a bunch of phrases. I was at a state organization, state championship, and recently in the past, maybe it was 2 years, and I remember it was all the team colors were all red and white. Out of the 10 finalists, 8 out of the 10 were all red and white with white palms. And each one had just changed where the 8 counts were, where they did their turn sequence and I think this is where we have to be really careful in the dance world, to kind of just, in my opinion, again, in the big picture, we have to be really careful what we ask for in terms of regulation, being recognized as a sport and whatnot, because I think the POM category is the first one to potentially feel the sense of what are required elements. And we
Yeah.
see that in AIA. You've got a certain number of required elements, and then it's just switching it around to see how it fits. It seems very prescriptive, and when you get there, it kills the creativity. And, in that same token, along the same theme, theme, sorry. I just want to expand on Ricardo and what he had to say. I was so excited. One of the things I've had the pleasure of judging the Mexican teams, and it's the buy-in that
Mm,
counts. It doesn't matter the theme, it's the
they're selling it.
buy-in.
They're selling.
Yeah, you know what I mean? And that's what it's what Latin cultures are known to do, so, that's bias, I'm sorry, that's stereotypical, but, the joy and the buy-in and, maybe they fell out of that, quad, but you know what? I didn't notice it as much because, wow, everyone was so excited and buying in to the emotion, to the projection. So as long as that is consistent, you don't necessarily have to, this theme that becomes the creativity part of it because they've all and it doesn't all, I've judged some routines and I know Shan, I think we were even on the same panels for these. They were kind of creepy, like they weren't all happy, and that's possible, but again, it's a bigger risk, outside of the Pom routine, I think, Mark Keppel hip hop this year would be a huge failure if they didn't fully
Yeah.
buy in, if you don't do that. And so in the same token, the risk in these themes, in the creativity portion, you can have kind of something cool, but if they don't 100% buy in, well, neither are we as judges, and that's the risk you
Yeah.
take.
Let me ask you, Shan, where should judges be rewarding difficulty? Like when we're looking at palm difficulty, are we looking at the motions? Are we looking at the transitions? Are we looking at the jazz technique, the turns, the jumps, the leaps, the kicks, the pointed toes? Like what should we really be looking for in terms of difficulty?
Yeah, so I think that the real challenge lies in striking a balance between that creativity and difficulty, not leaning into one over the other. And I do feel that, to allude kind of to a question a few moments ago, that DTU, when it was first born, it was born out of the idea that creativity was getting lost at other competitions. And I was one of those choreographers that got to sit next to Dasman, if you will, at UDA. My heart was just dropping because I had produced this hip hop routine that was extremely different. And on my score sheet, and UDA has progressed from this. This was a long time ago, but on my score sheet, it said, "This is not hip hop. We don't want to see this again." Because we had brought a different song. It was one song. I also feel, and this will all wrap around. Sorry, Kyle. It'll come back full
Oh, go
circle.
ahead.
um, so with that, this dream of having a competition that, gave more reward for creativity rather than difficulty was born. And now I think that DTU has done a really good job of catching up. It is not just about that creativity. Like Ramon had said, we also have athleticism and great technical elements and acro skill. It just the teams that go to both are very top notch, very high level. And if you brought UDA teams over to DTU and vice versa, they would all land the same in a sense, as Ramona was saying. Oh, with that said, I want to allude to like Mountain View from Arizona. I'll just call them out. Several years ago, I cannot remember what year it is, but you guys are all old school. You'll recall maybe they had brought a palm routine in the large division, and it was to run this town. And I was sitting with a whole bunch of high level choreographers and coaches. And as soon as they came on, we were like, whoa, we were blown away. We had never seen this type of creativity in Palm before. And we all looked at each other and we said, hands down, the winner. And they got 7th or 8th place. And the competition that we were at, again, I don't like to name names because I love them all. They were very boxed in.
Yeah.
They had a trick, turn, multiple songs, themey, whatever it was trending at the time. And these guys brought something completely artistic and new. And so I think that was the branch of DTU. And again, this creativity. So going back to your original, question, competitions are gradually moving in the direction of we're going to honor originality more than we are difficulty, I feel like. Even again, with the Battle of Minnesota and Ohio, both those teams had very strong skills, a very strong skill set, but in different ways. And I believe personally originality beat out some technical skills. I don't know, just in the palm. So again, striking that balance. While most competitions claim to value originality, the reality is that we tend to go towards safe routines, and often those are rewarded because they adhere to a familiar formula. So if anybody's listening to this, whether it's judges or choreographers or teams, I really, really want to get away from a formula. I want to truly honor creativity. Judges need stronger training and a broader lens to recognize innovative choreography and skills that may not look traditional or difficult, but still showcase excellence. So that's my
That was refreshing for me to hear. So I know that's going to be refreshing for a lot of people to hear. So thank you for that last part. That makes me want to ask though, and I will be very transparent with this. And I was actually just talking to Ramona about this the other day. Um, I want to look at the Minnesota and Ohio battle. Now, I respect both teams. I don't think anyone who doesn't respect one or the other is a true fan of the sport of dance because it's not hard to recognize that these are insane athletes. When I remember watching UDA and everyone saw me watching UDA. And when I was watching UDA, I remember commenting that I was very nervous for Minnesota after Pom. And it wasn't because of the athletic ability. It wasn't because of the turns. It wasn't because of anything else but the staging. I felt like the routine kind of stayed very centered. It didn't favor one side or the other. And in my head, I'm like, no, judges, I've just always felt this way. Judges need to see that staging. We want to see, we want to see you take all corners up, down, side of the stage. And I felt like that routine didn't. So I was like, and then I watch Ohio and I'm like, oh no, they're actually moving big in patterns and all this fun stuff, right? So is there a way to be original? Is there a way to be original to Pom without losing the core of what Pom is? Dance Team Union is a proud sponsor of the No Counts Given podcast, and we have some exciting news to share. DTU will be launching their annual college Instagram flight contest powered by Spirit Airlines to provide an opportunity to earn funding towards your nationals travel. DTU's motto, "We're here for you," continues to drive their commitment to supporting teams. Even if you're unsure whether you will attend the College Classic National Championships in 2026, we still encourage you to participate in the DTU flight contest. And in celebration of 10 seasons of Dance Team Union, they will award unique entries with special prizes throughout the contest, ranging in value from $200 to $1,000. To learn more about how to participate and earn funding towards your team, head over to www.thecollegeclassic.com for more information.
And I'll
Yeah,
and
go
I'll
ahead.
challenge you on that, Kyle, because I agree. Staging is huge, and Ohio's staging could not be beat. But if you go back to Palm in a sense when it was first born, it was uniformity and cleanliness and unison. So Minnesota kind of stuck with its roots, but to me, it was creative in the fact that they were going against what everybody else was doing. Bringing it back to, I feel like jazz is also in this trajectory, bringing it back to less layers and layers and layers and more uniformity, which is really awesome on the eye. I have to say, sometimes there's too much going on. Not saying that Ohio had too much going on. I loved both routines, but I tended to lean a little bit more towards Minnesota, and just the visuals were just cleaner to me, and I could read them easier. And
Yeah.
yeah, so
No,
well,
I 100% agree. And Ramona, I'll let you go. And Ricardo, if you ever want to jump in, please
yeah.
feel
Sorry,
free.
Ricardo.
I
Yeah,
you're
the
talking and
the
moving
two
heads. So if
chatty
you ever want
women.
to, yeah.
Sorry.
But I want to add on. I just want to add on something because you're. Trust me, I agree with you 1,000% because if you go back and I mean, I even say this to like my boyfriend because we talk. Trust me, we talk about dance all the time. It's what he signed up for. But we go back and we watch like first place Minnesota, and then you watch second, third, fourth, fifth. Second, third, fourth, fifth routines all feel so similar. All feel same in terms of transitions and all this fun stuff, right? I could even argue like 6, 7, 8, 9, 10th, right? So I see that point in the originality for Palm, and then sticking to like the course. That's why I wanted to bring out like that core part of Palm because I think back to like when I first discovered what Pace Elite was. um, like visuals were incredible, right? But it's not to the point where I'm like overstimulated. It's like, I could digest it and understand what's going on. I have the picture in my head. I remember the picture in my head then I can remember the next picture in my head. And that's what makes it memorable to me. But anyways, go ahead.
This is why I love judging with Shan when I get the privilege of judging with her, because we have opposite feelings about this in a very respectful way. I will lean towards the kind of creativity and the artistry part a little bit more. But here's the bigger picture of this, and Kyle, I think, at the risk of getting tons of hate mail, I'm just gonna put it out there. When you start getting super elite teams, when you're in my super elite teams, right? And so they're all getting, I mean, they're at the highest. They're getting 9.9s and 10s and, in each. So maybe we'll talk about just the staging element. So Ohio State, maybe I would have given a 9.9, and then Minnesota State, University of Minnesota 9.7. But when you have a tool, your score sheet, that has overall effect or general or something like that, and you've got all this clump of all these super high elite teams, guess what you've allowed the judges to do in that overall effect? To pick their favorites.
Yep.
Because it's overall effect. It's not being rubriced. It's just like, okay, which one did I like better? And so what happens is that's what wins, and so that becomes the luck of the draw with the panel you're on. So if it was, Shannon and I in that panel, it would kind of cancel itself out, which you kind of want, right? You want to have a balanced judging panel. But say you were the unfortunate ones that really got a judging panel that really leaned one way or the other, then that answers, just because of that one subcaption. And it's why I abhor it, because I feel
Yeah.
like it's not fair to just say what you like.
Do you think we need to get rid of overall impression?
Absolutely, without a doubt.
Yeah.
Or inappropriateness. What is appropriate in Miami is not appropriate in, central Iowa. I promise you.
I couldn't agree any more with that. All right, so let me ask you, Ricardo, and I'll unmute you really quick. So, what do you think, in your opinion, needs to hold the most weight in Palm? Is it creativity, visual layering, execution,
I think
difficulty? Like, what? Go ahead.
I think the visual layering. I remember there was a time back in the days when I think it was for USASF in the score sheet. There was like a caption where the value was like 20 points for visual impact or palm technique or something like that. And I think I like that score sheet because it was rewarding what palm really is. And they have like in their jazz score sheet, they have like 20 points for the technique, or in the hip hop score sheet, they have like 20 points for the groove and the team. Yeah, how they were moving as a team. So each genre have a subcaption that was like 20 points that was rewarding the style. So I think for Palm, it needs to be the visual impact, because I think we're missing it, or we're not missing it, but losing it sometimes with some teams. I think Shan said earlier, like, it's getting crazy. Well, right now I think it's getting more athletic now, but there was some years ago where it was going crazy with the acro steals or the turn sections. Like, I was like, well, yeah, you only need one turn section to get it right, or you don't need any acro to win. You just need to hit your visuals and give us some good palm, and that's it. And
Yeah,
that's maybe
I
what Sean was saying, like maybe that's why Minnesota did so good this year. Like it was like very traditional, the palm, and you can see it from like you can see the visuals and get it from wherever side of the arena you were watching the choreography. But yeah, I think the visual impact needs to be rewarded even more. And I think that's what I like about also, I'm gonna go, from another event producer or another competition, like on the ICU score sheet, at the very top of the score sheet, they have like, it's like category style execution. So you have to give the credit to the team if they are doing palm correctly, or if they are doing jazz correctly, or if they are doing hip hop correctly, not just like proficiency of movement or quality of movement. It's about the genre or the style they are executing on that floor.
I like you, Ricardo.
Yeah.
I like you.
Yeah.
But I will say, I feel like just in dance in general, and this has been a conversation that's been going on for, I don't know, a while now, where it's like there's a jazz solo that's posted on TikTok, but it's like 90% acro, and we've kind of taken away from just like the quality of movement. That seems to be, in a way, celebrated, where it's like, no, in jazz, we want quality of movement, give us jazz. Contemporary, no, we want quality of movement, give us contemporary. Pom, no, we want the 540s, aerials, toe touches, kicks. And it's like, what about the quality of movement and what actually originated in Pom? And for some reason, I hear this conversation and it's like everyone looks for that turn sequence that's just going to be the make or break of the team for Pom. And it's like, why are we not giving that same respect to Pom? So I'll go Ramona or Shan or anyone that wants to answer. I feel like what we were kind of saying earlier, if we keep up with this jazz background in Pom, is Pom really Pom, or is it just jazz with pom poms? Like, how are we going to keep it original to its core in Pom?
Yeah. I feel like Pom is sustained energy. It's that sharpness, the precision in group visuals, as Ricardo was saying. Jazz is those extensions, those turns, those tricks. When the technique exists within the visual framework and doesn't break the picture, I feel like that serves Pom. When it becomes like a solo spotlight, that serves jazz. So, it's easier to throw a wow with a turn sequence than it is to have a creative motion where people go, wow, what a creative motion. But real Palm success lies in commanding those crisp visuals. And I am going to stand strong on that and really lean into, again, a lot of us judges are around the same age. And I will never get over Stephanie Manuel with St. Thomas More. If you go back and look at any of her routines, they were entertaining. She had so many wow moments. And again, very little technique. We wore big, clunky white tennis shoes. You can't do much technique in those shoes. And that took a long time for us to give up, too. Traditionally, we were all like, white shoes, white tennis shoes. It was a battle of, oh my God, people are wearing jazz shoes for Pom. We've since moved on from that. But yeah, I just feel like you can do a really good job with just providing beautiful visuals.
It's funny because you just brought up the white shoes, and then it kind of hit me because I think when you bring up white shoes, I think of Los Alamitos back in the day with the white jazz shoes and the high curly hair. But you know what? I will say, because I am a Los Al fan, they have a signature style, which I feel like something like, St. Thomas More, like you have that signature style in their Pom and can never get tired of it. And it's kept them successful for so many years. So anyways, I agree. Does anyone want to add on to that?
I'll go back even a lot farther. Like when we talk about the origin of dance team, it's actually pretty hilarious. I mean, the origin of collegiate dance team came in the 1940s. You had all these young men coming home from war. They were going into colleges, and these football games were like WWE. They were just, I mean, they were highly violent. And the administrations got together and said, how can we calm the crowd down? How can we have them not rush? Their answer to that was to have beautiful girls out on the field performing with the band. And, that sounds pretty simplistic, but if we wouldn't have had like the original, the OG coach in Gussie Nell Davis, who said, no, it's not going to be just enough to have beautiful girls kind of just shaking it around. We're going to have precision. We're going to have showmanship. We're going to have visuals. So in that, I mean, I think that kind of encompasses what is in Pom DNA. I mean, it's in our DNA, the chaos mixed with precision and showmanship and beauty of the visuals. So I feel like, we're going to consistently get, the pendulum is going to keep going one end to the other. My fear with Pom right now, when we take it to formulaic, is it almost starts to encroach on cheer. If we're talking about formulaic and the difficulty of just your turns, turns, leaps, and jumps, And, that's all we're judging difficulty on. I would argue there's difficulty in everything, right? There's difficulty in, maintaining proper spacing. There's difficulty in transitional movement. There's difficulty even maintaining showmanship. So, creating that balance and, allowing that pendulum to just kind of center itself. I think we'll see it. But, when we try to push one too far, if we push the themey too far, it becomes too kitschy and just too, like, okay, really
Oh,
go to
yeah.
musical theater. We push it too athletic and then we encroach on the other sport of cheer.
No kidding. Just a fun question for everyone. Who are some, because we're talking about history of Pom, and I think even now, today, 30 years from now, when I'm still talking about it, I could be like, oh yeah, history of Pom. Who are Pom choreographers today that are shaping what Pom needs to be for the future?
I like the work that Prime 99 Will Carson is doing with Ohio State. And if we can have Dan Zappa back in the game, I would love that too. Well, he's doing Rogers, I think so, but I think like I miss
Yeah.
Pace Elite days.
Oh yeah, I agree. That was a sad day for the dance
In
community.
Rosary, like I remember also there were some really cool routines from Rosary High School. Like dance that really helped shaping, well, that the way and where we are right now. I think so. Like moving the sport towards what it is today.
Dance App actually does Miller North's choreography
Yes,
Oh.
and
and has
Hofstra.
for several years. Yep.
Yeah. I feel like there's a few all-star studios as well too. I've seen his work on still. But yeah, I agree. I miss the old Dan Sap and Minnesota days. Those were golden. All right. Anyone else? Anyone you want to throw in the mix?
Well, obviously, I've talked about a lot of who I loved in the past, and I agree. Carson does a really good job. She's got this visual eye that I have not seen anybody else even come close to, as
Yep.
far as, I mean, just that opening formation with Ohio State's Pom. I watch it over and over again, trying to figure out how they committed to that in less than, I believe it was like 1 and 2 and 3, and they were in a new formation. I blew my mind. So she's brilliant and a genius in that aspect. But I do feel that I don't know. Again, you guys, I was the coach and I did the choreography. Stephanie Manuel was the coach and did the choreography. Dan Sapp was the coach, did the choreography.
Yep.
Todd Sharp, coach, did the choreography. Anna Ittman from Eden Prairie, incredible. She was the coach and did the choreography for Pom. I feel like there's a disconnect between when a choreographer comes in and doesn't know your team as well as you do. And I know we've moved well
Oh,
past
for
that.
sure.
I don't know many coaches that choreograph anymore, maybe because we've all aged out. I don't know, my knees can't take it, but I do feel like maybe that worked better back then because we could work with our team all year, go to their strengths. We weren't chasing scores. We knew our team's mastery and we were really honing in on that. And so maybe for me, it's just getting back to these younger generation of coaches, maybe start choreographing with your team and start playing around because you will be better at it than you probably think. Anyways, that's a weird random thought, but
I choreographed and coached. I don't wish it on anyone. When you're looking at your own choreography for this over and over again, my dancers would laugh at me because when I first started, like 2016, working with them, we would get to the end of the season, we would say we had like 104 versions of this routine.
If you're around long enough, you can see the key elements of what choreographer does, is what they're good, it's kind of their signature style or whatnot. But I don't want to know. I don't want to know. I don't want it to color me. I really don't. I don't. Now, after the fact, I can talk about, you know what I mean? And if I know I'm never going to judge, but going through the year, I swear off social media in that aspect. I don't look at routines. I just don't want to bring in any type of bias. I don't want to take an elite choreographer and, in my mind space go, I expected a little more out of, her, or somebody that is just breaking into the business, and I'm like, oh, give them too much credit. Like, oh gosh, they're just trying. Look at what a great job they did. Nay, I don't want to know any of that. I really don't. That portion of it, I want to come in with as fresh of an approach as possible and not bring in any of that bias and just appreciate what they're offering me at that time without any like connection to the choreographer. In that same way, in my mind, you know, you see the team come out and then you see the coach come out. Very commonly, you see the choreographer come out. I'm like, oh god, okay, I don't like that part either. You know what I
Uh-huh.
mean? You know, and there was so much buzz over certain choreographers and, you know, some of the baggage that, you know, like, do I need to know that before, you know, somebody's coming out? That's not fair to the team. You know, then you're totally in check yourself mode to 100% maintain you know, objectivity, even though you may have some very, very strong feelings about certain people in the industry. And I don't want any of that. So I try to
Yeah.
stay clear of it as much as possible.
And that is what makes a good judge. That alone, you got to take your own personal feelings out of it. Um, let's talk for a second and give advice to coaches that are kind of on this train of you need the high difficult acro skills to be successful in Pom. And might struggle with getting those skills from their athletes or drilling those skills. Um, what can we say to coaches that are kind of in that bridge? Might have a strong team, they could dance, they're sharp, their motions are incredible, but they can't do 4/8 counts of turn combinations with these advanced combos in them. Like what where can we really dig in to get our team to be successful?
Just really stay rooted in Palm fundamentals. You know, then you can innovate on top of those. It doesn't have to be all that technical stuff. The judges will follow it if it's done with clarity. We've rewarded lots of teams that don't have this technical presence, but like Ramona was alluding to, they really committed. We saw the Palm fundamentals there. There was innovation and creativity with what they brought. Again, I'll say it again. Don't chase those scores, chase mastery. Palm is different than technique. Designed from the team's strengths. That's it.
I love
Yeah.
that. Yeah, go ahead, Ricardo.
I was gonna say that, like, use your team strengths. And I think difficulty, Ramona was saying earlier, like, it's not just about the skills. It's also about like the transitional work or how you're getting from one formation to another one, or using your upper body and your lower body and to create some visuals with your pom poms. It's not about the turn or the level turn or the 540 into an aerial or something like that. It's about how you're doing, how you're using your whole body and how you're dancing as a team. So there's difficulty in so many other captions, like spacing. I remember I'm gonna throw this out. I was judging one of the two teams. We were talking about Minnesota and Ohio State, I think this year and the last year at the World Championships. And I was telling to myself, like, wow, that movement should be hard to clean. Like I was thinking about like that would take so much time and so much practice time to clean that little 1/8 count where they're just throwing like
Yeah.
motions and going down to the floor. There was not a single skill, but it was like how they were using their whole body to create visual as they were dancing. And I was like, that should take a lot of time to clean. So that's difficult too. So I think you can find difficulty in so many other things rather than just the tricks or the technical abilities.
Yeah, Ramona, I wanna bring you in because we were talking the other day, and I remember you mentioning how Dance Team Union is kind of measuring difficulty, and there might be like some like little change that's going on, or please feel free.
Along the, you know, when we're saying, okay, where just to dovetail also into your question about where to focus if you're not you know, a traditionally highly skilled team that can execute advanced jazz skills, you know, at high levels. One entire subcaption is POM technique. POM technique is achievable, you know, you can that you know what I mean? It's not like you have to go necessarily go into a studio and go back to all the ballet and stuff. Palm technique is absolutely achievable, and positioning, power, articulation, these are things, that pretty, you know, average coaches can drill with their team and get them, up to speed. But specific to
Amen.
DTU? So, so they have one whole when it's difficulty of palm technique, not of everything else. But what's different going into this next year, upon reviewing the updated score sheets, it used to be just difficulty was only palm technique. We couldn't offer credit to advanced jazz skills.
Mm,
This year, then it used the other subcaption was technique of other elements of everything that wasn't palm, and so we would judge in that subcaption technique, but they added difficulty in there, so it's technique and difficulty of other elements. So, but again, it doesn't say technique and difficulty of your, of specifics, so it's still not being prescriptive and saying you have to have jumps in there or you have to have turns in there. It's just saying, oh, it's a place where we can also now credit difficulty outside of just the palm technique, which I think is appropriate.
Yeah.
I like that. I like that.
Yeah.
But it's still, where I have problems because my brain does not do math effectively on the fly. So somebody tries something very difficult, they try to do a whole, I mean, this is a whole nother conversation about, the team 540s and, all the stuff. But let's just say, so they try a whole team for, 540. They do it, with absolutely abhorrent technique, but it's a very difficult thing to try to do because you've got ensemble work and, and a difficult skill. How much do I weigh that? Is it 50%, with the attempted difficulty, or is it 50%, so do I credit them for that difficult skill, or do I ding them, which I never ding. I'm always in the credit. I'm always thinking, what can I give? Not where I pull back, but yeah. So that I have a little bit of difficulty with. But in the state levels, there are a number of score sheets that absolutely tease that out. They're like attempted difficulty, in my home state of Arizona, attempted difficulty of turns, jumps, and leaps, and then achieved difficulty of turns, jumps, and leaps. But that can be prescriptive. And again, we're back to our other, things. So, and then that begs the question, right? We were talking about how do you jump venues effectively? And, you have to know this. The choreographers have to help guide, and the coaches have to become more knowledgeable about being able to jump um, venues effectively, because that mindset of, for example, that I used in my home state, if they just stick with that same, routine and mindset, it will not be effective in D2,
Yeah,
because the
absolutely.
difficulty part is different.
Let's add in a fun question for everyone to answer. And you could give me an answer, then you could tell me why. If you had to cut something out of your score captions, and Ramona, you can't say overall impression. None of you can say overall impression.
Oh.
If you had to cut something out of the score sheet, they creativity, difficulty, or execution. Let's say those three: creativity, difficulty, or execution. Which one would you say, I guess, weighs the less? And you're like, we could do without that.
Who wants to go?
Okay, I'll bite. I'll bite. I
I've
don't
got
know if
my
I'll
answer,
bite.
but you go.
You guys are a lot better than my hip hop judges. I had to start popcorning
Oh,
and calling
no.
on people.
You're like, you busted. I actually like the USA model where the difficulty is baked in the cake. So you come in with a certain ceiling of skill sets that puts you in, novice, intermediate, or advanced. So the judge doesn't even have to think about difficulty. So I guess if pressed, I would have to go with difficulty because, again, to what I was saying before, difficulty can be inherent in each subcaption. So if pressed, I would really like a USA model that allows for that and can celebrate, and brand new teams, teams that are growing, and the elite teams. I really like that because I think I'm hearing, as a dance mom myself, I'm hearing, I hear the scuttlebutt from other dance moms and stuff. And, when their dancers are on new programs or new, a big transition with coaches or whatever, you know, big venues like DTU, UDA, NDA, are overwhelming, and they don't feel like it's necessarily a good, a healthy place for them to grow. And so, if you had levels, I think it allows them. It never minimizes a team that is elite because they're in the advance, and the other teams still have their time to shine based on their skill set. So difficulty.
Yeah, absolutely.
I was gonna say difficulty too, because I think sometimes difficulty like can translate so different to so many people. So I think difficulty it's a tricky one because we were saying like people will think difficulty is the technical abilities or difficulty is how we move. So it gets tricky sometimes, and yeah, some judges are more like okay, for me difficulty are the technical abilities. For me difficulty are the movement or the dancing or the transitional work. So I will go with difficulty and take it out. So people will invest more in their creativity or the way they are using the floor or they are using their dancers or they are using the music, they are using their pom poms to create those visuals that we were talking at the very beginning of the conversation. Like the visuals are the main focus of their routine. So let's go for creativity.
I feel like it's gonna be difficulty 3 out of 3. Let's see.
Dan's a tiebreaker here.
No, it's difficulty all around. And I, just as a judge, this is a safe space. I know it's going out to the masses, but I have always struggled with the caption, Ramona, of attempted difficulty. I hate that I have to give a score based on what they tried because it's a high level skill that they tried, but they executed it poorly. But I still have to give them high marks. It makes no sense to me as a judge. I'll dock them on execution. I get that. But I don't understand why we are rewarding just an attempt. So I would much rather scrap all that and go into
Yeah,
creativity and all the other pieces. I always am so confused by it.
I agree. And I just want to say the thought of attempted difficulty kind of scares me because it
Yeah.
makes me feel like I could just try and get my dancers to do anything that might actually injure them severely just to get that attempted score. That doesn't sit right with me.
No, Kyle, we see it all the time. And then
Yes,
we have to, as
absolutely.
judges, in our audio critiques, I have to say, make sure you're doing skills that you're
Yeah.
what?
Yeah.
I'm feeling like, they hear on my critiques where I'm like, ah! They hear that because I'm so worried somebody's going to get hurt out there.
Yeah,
You
totally.
know,
And I'm like, make
Yeah.
sure you're doing skills that are not above where our skill level is, but then I have to give them a 9.7 for attempting a difficult skill. It makes no
yeah,
sense.
yeah. And the other part of this is pure like, okay, the most important thing is their safety. For let's we're all on the same page about that. It seems, but here's the thing from the total math part that I just don't understand why the dance world, and this goes across all genres, this isn't unique to Pom. Why do you want to take that extra risk for that extra rotation or that hard acro skill? Okay, so you may, okay, you have more difficulty, but now your sync is off, your uniformity is off.
Yep.
All of a sudden, I see the showmanship, and they project it because they're like, "Crap, here it comes," and they're all like this, and they're like, "We're all serious going
Yeah.
into it." So now they have just affected maybe 5 other sub captions for
Yep.
just chasing the difficulty.
Yep.
I don't understand why that doesn't get across.
Yes.
Yeah, no kidding. No, 1,000%. Okay, I'm running out of time here. I promised my boyfriend we'd go to the flea market at 1
Sorry,
o'clock.
we're talkers, Kyle.
1:21.
We are
And
talkers.
listen, but it's fine. No, it's fine. I could talk about Pom and dance team all day, so we're having fun. But I have 2 questions left for you. My first question, including yourself, pick your dream judges Pom panel. Who's gonna keep Pom in the direction it needs to be? Now that doesn't have to be a current judge. That could be someone that you might know that just knows Pom and gets it and will keep it on its tracks, or someone in the past, or just give me who like your dream Pom judge panel.
I'm gonna go with the 4 of us right here.
I love
Yeah.
it. Let's do it.
And bring in your boyfriend, Kyle.
Cop out, cop out.
Yeah.
Yeah, no. And in all honesty, I mean, I've never had the pleasure of judging with Ricardo, but absolutely, from what I've learned from you, I would be thrilled. Shannon and I have already I just and I love the balance. I love that we challenge each other on our thinking. of that. And so I think that's always important, you know. But if I have to think, I go back to some of my mentors and to some coach judges that I've just respected their works. Joni May is one person. She trained me 30 years ago, and she's in semi-retirement now. You know, she just had an extraordinary, I mean, we always had a joke. If your routine didn't have a theme, she'd find it for you. She could find the, you know, the most nuanced things through, you know, that threaded through, but she just really, her kindness, her calmness, and her perspective was always great. I always loved that.
Ricardo, how about you? What would be your dream judges panel?
It's hard, but I think I'll go again with Dan Sapp. I like what he has done in the industry, and I think he understands both, like the collegiate and the scholastic side, but he also can do like the all-star. Let's do a crazy theme here, but not so crazy, but he can understand it. So I think he understands both sides. So I like him, and also what we were saying, like he's not just like a choreographer, like he also coaches the teams, so he can get both sides of the perspective. Um, I'm gonna say somebody that I know from Japan is a girl that has the team Planets Satoko, because I think I love
Yeah.
Japanese teams, so I think they're like crazy. So and they're so
Yeah.
precise on what they're doing, and I think she can have like a different vision of what we are doing and what's happening with Pom on the other side of the world. And also I'm gonna go with somebody from the ICU, which is Liz Rufino, because I think she knows a little bit more of what the sport, what the discipline and the Pom and the sport is going towards right now. Because I think right now we were talking about this part of the artistry and the athleticism and where do we want to push Pom, and right now hopefully we can get through the Olympics and all that kind of thing. So I think she has a different vision for the sport and for what we're doing with in the style. Like keeping it a little bit more traditional, but also pushing it more into the athletic side where we can be rewarded as the other sports are being rewarded and have that recognition as of every other athlete. So yeah, that will
Yeah,
be
absolutely.
some of my
I like that judges panel.
that
That's
will
a
be
good
some of
one.
my options.
Liz
Yeah.
is iconic. She's iconic.
Uh-huh.
Yeah,
Uh-huh.
it's gonna be like get it right, get it right.
Yeah. Shan, did you give yours? I might have forgotten.
No,
No?
I didn't really give an answer. I just said all of us.
Oh yeah.
That's why everyone
Oh.
loves Shan.
I was gonna have another one for you guys, but I'm not gonna hold any more of your guys' time. I appreciate each of you for making time out of your Sunday, talking all things Pom and dance team with me. I appreciate it. I hope you guys enjoyed that interview with our Pom judges, Ricardo, Shan, and Ramona. Thank you for coming on the No Counts Given podcast and sharing your insights and expertise into the Pom category. I'm excited to see what teams are going to be doing this upcoming season as Pom has been growing. I keep saying it with like everyone I talk to. We're going to see the Team 540s and the Swinging Poms this year. I'm just excited to see what happens in the Pom category. But anyways, like this video, subscribe, send it to your friends, and I hope you have a great rest of your Thursday or Friday, Saturday, Sunday, Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, whatever day you're watching this. Bye.